you have something where you make water out of air.
To be honest, it sounds a lot more complicated than it is because you must have seen on any kind of hot day, you have a cold glass of water. So any cold surface, automatically condensation takes place on. I'll tell you the Rahash fact.
Mhm,
Everybody likes to build that story, but
mhm,
sustainability without economics means
mhm,
nothing. I personally believe skill can be provided. If a person is well intentioned, they can be given skill. But you cannot have a highly skilled person and give them intention. But I have not hired Gen Zs before. And now with the new surge of Gen Zs that we're hiring, I am seeing that irrespective of this ownership that you give these people to take over, you're not seeing the same kind of response.
Hello, Navkaran. Thank you so much for joining in.
My pleasure.
Great. So, first question, which is actually very fascinating after going through the website, the profile, and all that. You have something where you make water out of air.
Yes.
Please take us through.
To be honest, it sounds a lot more complicated than it is because you must have seen on any kind of hot day, you have a cold glass of water or a
Mhm,
cold bottle of water. So any cold surface, automatically condensation takes place on. That is
mhm,
when we're surrounded by water in the air,
mhm,
in form of water vapor. So when there's a cold surface, water will change its form from vapor to liquid. Now,
mhm,
natural process is the same thing as dew, which is early morning dew. Also, the same thing happens, right? If because overnight it becomes cold in the morning when the sun rises. So if there's any cold surface, automatically water changes that form. So we just basically use technology to do that in an active basis. So effectively recreate that natural, phenomena of condensation using refrigeration technology, pretty much like a air conditioner, because we use the same kind of technology like a fan and a compressor. You would have seen even आपके AC say, you see that there's water that always falls from the back of the AC. Now that is condensate. In that case, the water is a byproduct of the process. In
mhm.
our case, our systems are designed to actively extract as much water from the air as.
So you mentioned that imagine a world where people are not fighting for water sources, though they can make their own water through air. What do you think? How many years this is going to take?
See, let's talk about the two, three issues here, effectively.
Mhm,
So, obviously, as remarkable as the technology is, because it's a renewable technology, it has its limitations. Pretty much like, say, there is a solar panel. Solar
mhm,
panels will generate electricity only in places which have a certain good number of daylight sun hours, so that can.
mhm,
So, similarly, our technology is also limited and restricted by the climate. Temperature and humidity play a huge role because if it's not very humid, you don't have enough water in the air in those places. So you cannot extract as much water. So drier climates are not our market per se. We mostly operate in the tropical coastal range. That is first the premise of what we do in terms of the challenges of technology. Now, when you talk about do I imagine a world where people will not fight for water? Unfortunately, I think we're getting in the opposite direction with the way things are going on right now. I think water is going to play a very, very critical role globally over the next 5 to 10 years because it is one of those only bare resources which till now has not been given its due. Because even today, we all take water terribly for granted. Nobody really, you know, people care about electricity, people care about this, etc. But when there's a tap leaking somewhere, nobody cares. Water, people assume water should be free. नहीं होगा,
even the
we'll get it.
pollution, it's been so many news की दूध भी डाल रहे हैं उसमें घी भी डाल रहे हैं in the rivers तो
Exactly. So we have
because
no
of the
respect.
religion.
We have no
हाँ,
respect for water, right?
I agree.
So from that perspective, I think although we don't have a water problem in the world, I genuinely
Mhm,
don't believe that we have a water scarcity issue, that there is a lot of, that there will be no water. And we have a water management problem. And we also have a water quality problem. Water is available, but doesn't mean that every available water source is safe or pure to consume, right? That is a very critical aspect of what you do because, like you rightly said, people are throwing milk, ghee dal rahe, etc. Now, Ganga mein, ashes bhi bahte hain. There are so many things that they do. We're constantly polluting the water. So, at some point, we're going to have to look at alternate sources and alternate technology. I think as a world, we're working on both. So I believe people will start to move a lot toward becoming self-reliant. Um,
Mm.
just like people have started doing that with energy also now, where people are installing solar panels, things like that, where everybody wants a little bit of the piece of infrastructure which is not connected to anybody, that you can be self-dependent. So I believe, uh, unfortunately, to answer a question which I said, we're heading a direction where we're going in the opposite direction of where water will not be scarce or where water will not be a problem. Like even with this whole UAE and Iran and the whole Iran-Israel thing, you see, they've now started to, they have actually bombed 2 or 3 desalination plants in that region. So, taking out water as a resource is the first time in war. Even after Operation Sindoor, we also spoke about cutting off the water
Mm.
treaty that we have. So, now people are starting to look at that and see that water will play a very critical role in the next decade, I'm sure.
Right. Um, let's just hope that it gets, I mean, delayed, or maybe people should get get their senses back. Who knows?
I hope so too, but unfortunately, things don't look very great, from that perspective.
I agree. So I saw that you also manage your family business. I guess you still play some part, but you started, managing business like that, and then you started with this kind of idea, which looks very, very drastic or something very niche and all that. So wanted to understand why this, like, how did you get your interest towards this? Because it's been a 9 year journey now in this.
So, from a root cause perspective, I basically, so ever since I've been a child, I've pretty much tinkered with technology, in terms of assembling a computer or opening something up, etc. I've always been very technically inclined, although I did not study, engineering formally or go into that thing. And that is a whole different story. Whether I remember I wanted to do science in class 11 and 12, and I remember my parents really, spoke me out of it, saying, "Okay, becoming an engineer requires too much commitment. I don't think you have it in you." And it was the opposite of what most people face here. But in that sense, they said,
Hard to
no.
imagine parents are saying that.
Well, they basically said, because in my school life, I used to do a lot of extracurricular activities and stuff like that.
Mm,
And class 11, 12, if you really want to pursue, let's say, engineering,
mm,
everybody goes into that IIT, JEE mode where they really have to get preparing, etc. And they realize that I'm not going to put in any kind of effort. So they basically wanted to take that option off of the table, because at least the last 2, 3 years of my school were very nice in that sense, because I did not come with that much immense pressure. Having said that, I've always been very technologically inclined. I came back. I went to the UK to study my accounting and finance at the University of Kent. Came back and I joined the family business. But with me, my problem is mundaneness. I get bored very easily. So,
क्या
I
ऐसा
came back.
होता है कि उस एज में और जल्दी बोर हो जाते हैं?
नहीं, मैं तो आज भी बहुत बोर होता हूँ and even today I've been working for 19 years. I started working in the family business when I was 21. I just graduated. I started a hotel. I ran it for about a year and a half. I still have that hotel, but it's run professionally now. Then I did something else. In 2012, I acquired a steel business. I ran it for a good 4 years. And then in 2016, I sold that a majority share of that business to a very large Indian conglomerate. And I effectively went from being the CEO to being a member of the board. So my active day-to-day running of that steel mill didn't really, it just vanished in, like it's a month's time. So I started to look at my next fix, that what will I do now? Because I need to keep engaged. I started looking and exploring a lot of business ideas, effectively looking at different kind of things. Somebody suggested do something in, railway parts and supply and this and that. Somebody said you consider doing more trading business, which is my family business. But I don't know. I just wanted to do something which was a bit different. Uh, so I was talking to a couple of consultants and a lot of people, and somebody said, "Up, why don't you look at the water as a sector?" And I thought water as a sector sounds good, because even today, having been in this place for 9 years, even today globally, water is a very, very unorganized sector. You see, you can name the top guys in the traditional technology. If I ask you what is the number one TV brand in the world, you would know. If I ask you what is the number one appliance, so what is the smartphone or whatever, etc. But the basic things that we talk about, infrastructure, it's still a very unorganized, unconsolidated market. I figured water seems like an interesting bit. And while doing more research in what I can do in water, I came across air to water as a concept. We're not the first people in the world to do it, and we're probably not going to be the last in the world to do it. But it just seems so exciting that you could basically build a tech that could literally harness water in the air and provide water. So I started to study it. I figured, this looks very interesting. Then I started to go back and see that what do you need effectively to do such a thing, and got in deeper. And since I've been very technically inclined, although I didn't formally finish class 11, 12 physics, but I am a quick learner in that sense. So built a team with refrigeration people who were from the industry who knew those things, etc. Learned on the way myself also. It took us a year to develop the tech, the in-house, and that's how I got into this. My primary interest in this regard was entirely to be in an unorganized sector and look at a new tech. A lot of people go preaching about I really cared about sustainability and the environment and this and that. My pure play this decision was based on it seems like a good industry to be in. I think there's a lot of opportunity in water, and that's primarily the reason why I decided to go with it. And now it's been 9 years, and this is the only business I've done in my 19 years that where every day is engaging because every day is new. We're building tech every day. We're doing a new iteration. There's design. It's a lot of fun to run from that perspective. It can be stressful, but it's still fun.
Love the honesty when you said a lot of people go and preach about sustainability and stuff like that.
Nobody
I'll be
cares.
very.
Nobody cares. I'll tell you the harsh fact.
Uh-huh.
Everybody likes to build a story,
Mm-hmm.
but sustainability without economics means
Mm-hmm.
nothing.
Oh, you're right. But sometimes I've seen that stories be built इसलिए होती है so that because stories gets told easily. So it is important that we create stories around it. Maybe because of that
Creating
it is.
stories is fine, but effectively, like let's say, I'll give you a classic example.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk. I don't know if you have you seen the Apple Mother Earth video. Uh, have a look.
I
Yeah,
don't think yeah, maybe I can't recall.
there's a video. Have a look after
Uh-huh.
whenever you
Uh-huh.
do, where
I'll do it.
Tim
Okay.
Cook and everybody sort of
Uh-huh.
they've created a situation where Mother Earth is coming to visit Apple, and they are presenting on what are the things that Apple has done as a company to be sustainable. So be water neutral, how they're taking care of packaging, etc., so on and so forth. At that scale, there is a huge amount of corporate social responsibility which needs to go in genuinely, right? And it plays a lot of it has real financial impact for them also. It has impact from them from a perspective that from their investor perspective, stakeholder perspective, they need to know because tomorrow as laws are changing, people are adapting to the laws that are changing. Because tomorrow there might be a legislation that comes in and said you must look at, like say COP25 or etc. You must adhere to being water positive. They say in the electronics industry, appliance industry, there's a rule in India that 25% of plastic that you use must come back recycled, or 25% of the metal you use must come back recycled. So the world
Okay.
is moving towards that kind of legislation.
Mm-hmm.
So from an investor perspective, they want to see the company that they invested in is getting ready for that kind of legislation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So unless its numbers are involved, unless there are real stakeholders involved, uh, these are all buzzwords because it's not going to happen, right? So from that perspective, like I said, sustainability without economics means nothing. So if you're sustainable and you're basically able to meet the same price, then you might be a preferred choice. But if you're sustainable but more expensive, there are going to be very few takers.
Mm-hmm. So your business model is mainly B2B?
Yeah, we stuck to B2B. We tried to go into the B2C segment, but 3.5, 4 years ago, actually 21 is when I really pushed B2C hard. I realized that the market is not ready for B2C still. So then 21, 22, we decided that we'll stick to B2B and slowly build that out.
In last 9 years of your business journey here in this niche, which is so unorganized, people are getting aware maybe now a bit towards it. What was the hardest time when you felt like, yeah, I think I should give up, or what
I
kept you
go through
slow?
that every week. Every week. Because you see, it's a very hard sell, right? From that perspective, we get a lot of curiosity and intrigue because people,
Mm-hmm.
when they hear about it, they get excited that, you should
Mm-hmm.
talk and figure out. But then they start looking at, do we really want it? Do we really need it? Does it make commercial sense? So a lot of people are actually also working in that whole ostrich mentality where they've got their head inside a hole in the ground. People are still not seeing that the water issues are imminent. And from that perspective, if they start comparing us to ROs, or they start comparing us to, the standard municipal water, they don't understand that if you're trying to be self-reliant, there's going to be a cost attached to it. So people still think till date it's very surprising that even though every year in Chennai and Bangalore and other big cities around the world, in the peak summer, there'll be water shortages, people will start relying on tankers and things like that. People still take water for granted. So from that perspective, trying to explain to someone that this is what it's going to be, and your average cost per liter will be between say 2 rupees to 2.5 rupees per liter, they immediately start comparing it to say municipal water, which basically is coming from the ground, or it is coming through any other. So you're paying 20 paisa per liter or something like that. So from that perspective, that comparison from cost to cost always is hard. That's why we stuck to enterprises, because we understood that the large customer base that we have, and most of our uh, clients are actually the large Fortune 500 companies like Infosys or Walmart and things like that. So where they are also going down the Apple route, like I said, they understand there's a corporate social responsibility. They understand that there is impact. At the same time, we're also helping them mitigate cost, because a lot of organizations buy the 20-liter jars for their offices. That costs them between 4 to 5 rupees per liter. A good quality Bisleri or an Aquafina jar would be say 100 rupees a jar. So it costs about 4 to 4.5 rupees per liter. In our
Mm-hmm.
case, cost of extraction is roughly between 3.5 to 4 rupees per liter. So it makes sense.
Almost same.
So in that case, like I said, if you're more sustainable and at cost, the cost makes sense, people will adopt. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a challenge. So effectively, that's sell to convert people, to convince people. That is still a huge part of our job in terms of the challenging portion of what we do.
Got it. So you started this business as a partnership, like, or you started this
No, no.
solo?
So I started this with no partnership per se. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
solo founder in that sense. I come from a family business, so obviously, capitalists flowed from there. But yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
don't have any external founder.
And no funding or nothing you
No,
have
no,
raised, I
we're
mean, from the
completely
market.
bootstrapped. No, we've not taken
Completely.
any externally.
Awesome. So, our audience from the channel is mainly they are like either they want to start their career journey, they're looking for their first job and so on, or a mid-career professional who are like between 3 to 5 years of work experience. So they are the major component, I would say, 50 to 60% of the audience. There's a common question which is being asked: what exactly the industry is looking at? So I wanted to understand what are those two, three qualities you would like to see when you get people on board, because you saw that the initial phase also when you really need this has to be there in the person who becomes my founding team, and now after 9 years.
So I think there's one thing that I have basically understood with my 19 years working across different industries, whether it's
Mhm,
manufacturing or trading or service.
mhm,
I think intent is very important, right? Effectively, I think everything is give and take in life. So from an employee perspective, okay, it can get toxic for employees. I'm not saying that, but from an employee perspective, it's important to show that the intention of the employee or the team member uh, is well, they're well intentioned towards their task or what they're supposed to do. Because I personally believe skill can be provided. If a person is well intentioned, they can be given skill, but you cannot have a highly skilled person and give them intention. So the biggest
mhm,
challenge that we feel is effectively, um, and this is my personal issue. I've been having huge kind of 2 3 months. I've had some kind of human capital issues because we're trying to work with a much larger team now. We've grown our team size. We used to be 18, now we're at 44. And in our case, since most of our workforce is mostly R&D and tech development, so 80% of our workforce is still engineers and the higher skills. So the uh, technicians on the ground are roughly about 10 or 12. We don't have many in that regard. So we're facing this challenge where the new generation that's coming in has a certain sense of entitlement, but it doesn't have the understanding that you have to put in the hours to get something in return. So I personally believe that intention is everything. If people can put in their mind, be well intentioned, then everything starts to happen. Because whether it's the founding team, whether it's the founder, or whether it's immediate manager or whatever it is, the culture flows down in the company, right? And the culture we try to build, or anybody should try to build, is basically any small thing is as important for the lowest rung person in the team up to the highest in that regard. So
Hmm.
when that sense of ownership comes in, that's when we know that real impact can be made. And that's the only point here. So I think that is important to find, to be well intentioned towards their job, and everything works out.
So is there a way we can find out the intention during the interview?
From an interview perspective, to be honest, I'm a bit confused because there was a time where you could talk to someone and understand what they're saying. But uh, a lot of times I've seen, and this is in the last 3, 4 years, I've seen a huge amount of ethical shift also. Because we've seen, things like, and I've seen this recently, I've never seen it before, where people take offers and then they take that offer and it becomes a bidding market where they take it up to someone and things like that. And,
Especially IT engineers, I've heard a lot of stories
I
about
had
it.
last year, I had such a situation where we knew someone who's going to join. We
Hmm.
sent an offer letter, they had an appointment letter, and came to the office to give the documents, etc., and said I will join in 2 days. And 2 days later said, I'm sorry, I got a better offer from the competition. I've gone to the competition. And we were like, okay, how does that work? And we realized a lot of people are now offer hunting. A lot of people do that. So there is a huge distrust in the employer market from that perspective. So
But they
I
see this
think
is our right. I mean, if I see it from their perspective, they see it's our right. We are open in the market and we'll keep doing it. So they don't
no,
see words as the commitment.
I think it's definitely right, but there is a certain sense of ethics that prevail, right? My point is, if you're not sure, don't accept an offer,
Hmm.
right? But if you have accepted an offer, then you must go through with it in that regard. The I also think everybody has a right to grow, everybody has a right to flourish, but the problem today is with uh, India has a very unique problem, right? The For a country that is has a huge unemployment rate, but still finding very good skilled people to work is a huge challenge. So even today, when we're basically employing in Chennai or a Bangalore or wherever, we still feel it's a very employees market. It's not an employers market because we've seen huge companies that recruit large amounts of people and pay whatever, etc., and heavily compensate because they actually either they're externally funded. So, when you, let's say you've raised 50, 60, 70 crores or 100 crores, you literally have money to throw. So you basically want to get as many people as possible and see what sticks. So you understand that in effect, only 20% of your team is actually doing all the work and 80% of the team is just bystanders. So these are challenges we face as a small company where we can't afford that kind of thing, where we can't have a four-person layer, that in one position we have three people doing the same job and, have that kind of support. So I think today it's very difficult. In fact, we've been seeing this more and more now. It's very difficult today to assess how people will work or what it's going to be. So I think you should be well intentioned. You should know your skills in that regard. You should be open to criticism and learning. These are all new things that I have seen that the new generation is not open to at all. There is no sense of criticism. They want work-life balance very clearly, which they should, which they're entitled to. But the it only comes across as being one-sided. So, so
I feel the work-life balance definition should not be not working after the hours. I mean, that's my personal thing. It's supposed to be when your work demands more, your life has to have that scope to go there. And if your life demands more, the work should have the scope to actually accommodate that life demands more. So that's how the work-life balance has to be. Nobody works 8 hours. Nobody doesn't open like we all open reels during the office hours. We all takes the call, which are like so nobody works 8 hours, hence nobody takes the 16 hours break also. It's like nobody's asking them to work late, but at the same time, this is how the work-life balance definition should go. But it is right now going the other way. I totally
no,
agree
I
with it.
think there's going to be a huge churn, and the problem effectively is that it becomes as an employer or whatever, and that's where AI is really going to come in from that perspective. Because from an AI perspective, if you think about it, people want to replace all the bottlenecks.
Hmm.
So the huge chunk of where AI integration will happen is to remove those bottlenecks. And that wave in change will come so fast. There are a lot of people who thought they were playing very pivotal roles will not have pivotal roles anymore.
I agree. I currently have a team size of 12 members, and I see even with the scale also I see a lot of issues with the thing. I won't say everybody is like that, but yeah, hiring a new people, getting somebody adjusted in the environment for initial 2, 3, 4 months has always been a challenge. So then कभी तो इस पार उस पार होता है, कभी things get settled down.
I know it's crazy. It's
But
absolutely
it's
crazy.
learning with every new condition or situation. It's all learning. But I don't know what is the success formula yet. What makes us actually find out
So I used to
who
think,
can
I'll tell
really
you, I
do
am a big
it.
proponent of, as an entrepreneur, you should also, I don't know if you've already read. Have you read this book called Maverick by Ricardo Samla?
No.
I think you should really. I recommend that book highly to all entrepreneurs. It's a
Mhm.
book about this second generation entrepreneur who comes and joins his family business in Brazil in the, I think, early 80s or late 80s until today. He built this large billion-dollar company called Semco. And I love that organization because I think that culture defines everything. And from that perspective, able to build a team entirely that is democratic in every way. So people pick their own roles, their own titles, their own salaries. Everything is transparent. People can key every as he. In fact, board meetings also. Two seats are always open to any employees. The first come first serve. If two employees show up, can be even the janitor can sit in the board meeting and have a hearing. And when I read that book and I read once a year to understand that work culture is very important. And I've always kind of propagated this kind of work culture because I truly believe that uh, empowerment is all I can do is as a founder to let people take the risk, back them in a situation where you take the risk, but it's my responsibility. So at the end of the day, where I'm completely 100% behind you. You have ownership. Go do something. But what I've noticed off late even more. This has worked for me very well over the last uh, 15, 16 years. But I'm sorry, but I have not hired Gen Zs before. And now with the new surge of Gen Zs that we're hiring, I am seeing that irrespective of this ownership that you give these people to take over, you're not seeing the same kind of response because millennials before this came from an environment where they were constantly controlled. And when they come in a work environment where they're not controlled anymore, it just feels like a huge relief. So I have seen people put in their 120% into the company because they believe that yes, we have been given this thing. So the millennials don't have a sense of entitlement. The new generation has a sense of entitlement. So even good work culture is not appreciated in that sense because I still have a very clear rule. We don't really look at time in, time out kind of situation across the company. We don't have people punching in their clocks. I believe that people should work hours based on what the work demands. So I really don't care if we had 3 days of no activity and you left early. As far as on the fourth day, if you had to be in the factory for 16 hours, you should be there for 16 hours. Because the whole idea is you know what your tasks and responsibilities, and you're supposed to get it done. That's the only thing I'm expecting, or the company or the culture is expecting. But we're seeing off late that is also not working. So, where people are not being able to execute irrespective of being empowered. So, right now, I'm in a very confused state because I don't know what is going to work. For me, whatever has worked in the last 17 years has not been working for the last two, from that perspective, especially in the last year. After growing the team size now even more, it's
Mm.
become a situation where I'm seeing that even if people are given the full ownership of a task or a job to get done, they're still not being able to convert it for some reason.
Mm.
That
We all
that
are
is the big
looking for
challenge.
people those who are a little more responsible, taking ownership, have good intent, the
Yeah, the
basics.
understanding here
We just
is
need the basics. Mhm.
ownership. So effectively, I don't think there are, and I think there are very few companies out there that let you do whatever the hell you want to do from a
Mhm.
perspective that whatever suits the company's purpose. But I don't think people are vested in the same way anymore as they used to be.
Mhm.
So that's become a challenge now. In fact, now a huge part of what I do effectively is use at least I have been able to use AI for at least doing 3, 4 great things where you know where I've stopped. I've done a hiring freeze and gotten into at least a lot of those things which are now taken care of by AI process because it's much easier without creating much confusion.
I agree. Thank you so much for your time. I am sure the audience will love the insights you have shared and have a great day ahead.
Thank you, Jyoti. Thanks so much.